After studying this module, we shall be able to know the securities market, learn the laws of trading of securities in the stock market, identify the steps for recognition of stock exchanges in India, analyze corporationalization and demutualization of stock exchanges, understand the role of central government in controlling the recognized stock exchanges, learn about the listing of companies on a recognized stock exchange. Stock market plays a significant role in development of an economy by mobilizing the finance from savers, that is suppliers, to the corporate users of fund. It plays a vital role in the growth of an economy as it channelizes the funds into productive sectors. Also, it ensures the safety of investments to the investors and provide various avenues to maintain their liquidity intact. Through various legislations governing and its functions, the stock market ensures smooth operations of transactions and equitable trade practices. To promote these and prohibit undesirable dealings, the Securities Contract Regulation Act 1956 was enacted by Parliament under the Act of 42 of 1956, as its scope spreads to all over India. Let us go through a basic definitions related to stock market. These are: contract means a contract for or relating to the purchase or sale of securities. Member, it means a member of a recognized stock exchange. Option in securities means a contract for purchase or sale of a right to buy or sell, or a right to buy or sell securities in future, and includes a teji, mandi, a gully, a put, a call, or a put and call in securities. Prescribed means prescribed by rules made under this Act. Stock exchange means any body of individuals, whether incorporated or not, constituted for the purpose of assisting, regulating, or controlling the business of buying, selling, or dealing in securities. Derivatives. Derivative includes a contract which derive its value from the prices or index of prices of underlying securities. Scheme. It means a scheme of corporatization or demutualization of a recognized stock exchange. Securities Appellate Tribunal. It means a Securities Appellate Tribunal established under subsection 1 of section 15K of Securities and Exchange Board of India 1992, 15 of 1992. Spot delivery contract. It means a contract which provides for actual delivery of securities and the payment of a price. Transfer of securities by depository from one owner to another.
Stock exchange means any body of individuals, whether incorporated or not, constituted for the purpose of assisting, regulating, or controlling the business of buying, selling, or dealing in securities. Recognized stock exchange means a stock exchange which is for the time being recognized by the central government under Section 4. Derivative includes a security derived from a debt instrument, share, or a loan, whether secured or unsecured, risk instrument, or the contract for differences or any form of security. A contract which derives its value from the prices or index of prices of underlying securities. Scheme means a scheme for corporatization or demutualization of a recognized stock exchange which may provide for the issue of shares for a lawful consideration and provision of trading rights in lieu of membership cards of members of a recognized stock exchange. The restrictions on the voting rights. The transfer of property, business assets, rights, liabilities, recognition contracts of the recognized stock exchange, legal proceedings by or against the recognized stock exchange, whether the name of a recognized stock exchange or a trustee or otherwise, any permission given to or by the recognized stock exchange. Transfer of shares of a recognized stock exchange to another recognized stock exchange. Any other matter required for the purpose of or in connection with the corporatization and demutualization, as the case may be, of the recognized stock exchange. Security Appellate Tribunal means a Securities Appellate Tribunal establishes under the subsection 1 of section 15K of Security and Exchange Board of India Act 1992. Spot delivery contracts means a contract which provides for actual delivery of securities and the payment of a price, therefore either on the same day or the day of the contract or the next day, the actual period taken for the dispatch of securities or the remittance of money thereby through the post being excluded from the computation of the period aforesaid if the parties to the contract do not reside in the same town or locally. Transfer of securities by a depository from the account of a beneficial owner to the account of another beneficial owner when such securities are dealt by a depository.
Let us now discuss the procedure that a stock exchange needs to follow for getting recognized. A stock exchange which is desirous of seeking recognition must fill an application in prescribed manner to give effect to the same along with the particulars as desired by the Act and a copy of the bylaws of stock exchange and a copy of rules related to constitution of stock exchange in general and in particular and other important details. The central government, after being satisfied by inquiry of stock exchange, may grant recognition to it subject to the conditions imposed upon, but if the central government is of the opinion that recognition granted to the stock exchange should be withdrawn in interest of the public or to accommodate provisions of the Act, it shall withdraw the same.
Application for recognition of stock exchanges. A stock exchange which is desirous of seeking recognition must fill an application in the prescribed manner to give the effect to same. Each application must contain the particulars as described by the Act, along with the copy of bylaws of stock exchange and a copy of rules related to constitution of stock exchange in general and in particular. Governing body of the stock exchange, its constitution, powers of management, and the manner in which its business is conducted. Powers and duties of its business bearers, procedures of inclusion of a class of members in the stock exchange and their qualifications. The process of suspension, exclusion, expulsion, and the readmission of its members. Procedure by which the members' partnerships may be admitted as members to stock exchange, where permissible, procedure for the nomination and appointment of clerks and authorized representatives. Grant of recognition to stock exchanges. The central government, after being satisfied by the inquiry of stock exchange, as may be necessary in its behalf and after obtaining any information in this regard, that the rules and the bylaws of a stock exchange applying for registration are in conformity with such conditions as may be prescribed with a view to ensure fair dealing and to protect investors. The stock exchange is willing to comply with any other conditions, including conditions as to the number of members, which the central government, after consultation with the governing body of the stock exchange and having regard to the area served by the stock exchange and its standing and the nature of securities dealt with by it, may impose for the purpose of carrying out the objectives of this Act. That is, would be in interest of the trade and also in the public interest to grant recognition to the stock exchange. It may grant recognition of stock exchange subject to conditions imposed upon it as aforesaid and in such form as the case may be prescribed. The conditions which the central government may prescribe and that it would be interest of the trade and also in the public interest to grant recognition to the stock exchange. It may grant recognition to the stock exchange subject to the conditions imposed on it as aforesaid and in such form as may be prescribed. Withdrawal of recognition. If the central government is of opinion that recognition granted to the stock exchange should be in withdrawn of the interest of the public or to accommodate the provisions of this Act, it shall serve the governing body of the recognized stock exchange a written notice of withdrawal and give reasonable notice to them to be heard in the manner, and the central government shall withdraw the recognition.
Demutualization is a process by which a mutually owned stock exchange is converted into a company owned by shareholders through transforming its existing legal structure into a business entity. Corporization, the process of conversion of exchanges from an association of persons to a company limited by shares.
Demutualization means the segregation of membership rights in a recognized stock exchange into a distinct ownership right through the ownership of shares and distinct trading or clearing right of the recognized stock exchange. In simpler terms, it is a process by which a mutually owned stock exchange is converted into the company owned by shareholders through transforming its existing legal structure into a business entity. Corporization. Exchanges like Bombay Stock Exchange were not a corporate entity and needed to be converted from an association of the persons to a company limited by shares. This process of conversion is termed as corporatization.
All recognized stock exchanges shall be corporatized and demutualized from an appointed date determined by Security Exchange Board of India. Section 1 4B of the Act states that recognized stock exchanges shall within a time limit submit a scheme of corporatization and demutualization for approval to SEBI, that is Security Exchange Board of India. On receipt the SEBI, after making an inquiry and being fully satisfied in such regard, approved the scheme either with or without modification. The approved scheme must be immediately published by SEBI and by the recognized exchange in two daily newspapers which are circulated in India. Where SEBI is of view and satisfied that scheme is unjust and not in public interest, it may reject the scheme and publish the order of rejection in official gazette.
According to the provisions of Section 4B of the Act, all recognized stock exchanges shall be corporatized and demutualized from the appointment date determined by SEBI, which may it shall notify in the official gazette. If SEBI is of opinion that any recognized stock exchange has been prevented from being corporatized or demutualized by sufficient cause on the same specified date, it shall specify some other date in respect. Section 1, subsection 4B of the Act states that recognized stock exchanges shall within a time limit submit a scheme of corporatization and demutualization for approval of SEBI. However, any demutualized stock exchange need not submit the application for the same. On the receipt, the SEBI, as per the subsection 1, after making an inquiry in the subject matter and after being fully satisfied in this regard, approved the scheme either with or without modifications. As per subsection 2, SEBI shall not approve a scheme if issue of shares for a lawful consideration or provision of trading rights in lieu of the membership cards of the members of a recognized stock exchange or a payment of dividend to members had been proposed out any reserves or assets of the stock exchange. The approved scheme must be immediately published by SEBI in official gazette and by the recognized exchange in two daily newspapers specified by SEBI, which is circulated in India. Where SEBI is of view and satisfied that scheme is unjust and not in public interest, it may reject the scheme and publish the order of rejection in official gazette.
Powers of central government over recognized stock exchanges. The central government has the power to call for periodic inspection of accounts of recognized stock exchanges, to make rules to be followed by the recognized stock exchanges, to suspend the functioning of any recognized stock exchange in case of an emergent situation, and to issue directions to all the recognized stock exchanges which are to be followed by them, And also, the recognized stock exchanges are required to furnish their annual accounts and reports to the central government regularly, complete in all respects as required by the law. Requirements with respect to the listing of securities on a recognized stock exchange. A public company desirous of getting its securities listed on a recognized stock exchange shall apply its application along with memorandum and articles of association, copies of all prospectus or statement in lieu of prospectus issued by the company, companies of offers for sale and circulars or advertisements, copies of balance sheets and audited accounts, and particulars of shares or debentures for which permission to deal is applied for, provided that a recognized stock exchange may in any particular case call for such further particulars or documents as it deems proper.
The central government has the power to call for periodic inspection of accounts of recognized stock exchange and conduct the inquiries at any time or any matter it may deem fit for the public interest. All the recognized stock exchanges are required to furnish their annual reports to the central government regularly, complete in all respects as required by law. The central government has the power to make rules to be followed by the recognized stock exchanges and also to direct them to make or amend some rules. The central government is fully authorized to supersede the governing body of a recognized stock exchange. The central government has the power to suspend the functioning of any recognized stock exchange in case of an emergent situation. It has the power to issue directions to all the recognized stock exchange which was to be followed by them.
After complying with such other terms and conditions, an applicant company shall satisfy the stock exchange that its articles provide that a company shall use a common form of transfer, that the fully paid up shares will be free from all lien, that any amount paid up in advance of calls on any share may carry interest, that there will be no forfeiture of unclaimed dividends, and that the option or right of call of shares shall not be given to any person except with the sanction of company in the general meeting. A company applying for listing shall undertake that letters of allotment, acceptance, or rights will be issued after being serially numbered and examined and signed by a responsible officer of the company. The letters of allotment and renunciable letters of right will contain a provision for splitting, and the letters of allotment and letters of right will state how the next payment of interest or dividend on securities will be calculated.
A public company as defined under the Companies Act 1956, desirous of getting its securities listed on a recognized stock exchange, shall apply for the purpose of stock exchange and forward along with its application the following documents and particulars: memorandum and articles of association, and in case of debenture issue, a copy of trust deed. Copies of all prospectus or statement in lieu of prospectus issued by the company. Copies of offers for sale and circulars or advertisements offering any securities for subscription or sale during the last 5 years. Copies of balance sheet and audited accounts for last 5 years, or in case of new companies for such shorter period for which accounts have been made up. A list of highest 10 holders of each class or kind of securities of company as on the date of application, along with the particulars as the number of shares or debentures held by and the address of each shareholder. Particulars of shares or debentures for which the permission is to deal is applied for, and provided that a recognized stock exchange may either generally by its bylaws or in any particular case call for such further particulars or documents as it deems proper. Apart from complying with such order, terms and conditions as may be laid down by a recognized stock exchange, an applicant company shall satisfy the stock exchange that its articles of association provide for the following among others. The company shall use a common form of transfer, that the fully paid up shares will be free from all liens, while in case of partly paid up shares, the company's lien, if any, will be restricted to monies called or payable at fixed time in respect of such shares. That any amount paid up in advance of the calls or any shares may call interest and shall not entitle the holder of a share to participate in respect thereof in a dividend subsequently declared. There will be no forfeiture of unclaimed dividends before the claim becomes barred by the law. The option or right to call of shares shall not give to any person except with the sanction of the company in general meeting, provided that a recognized stock exchange may provisionally admit to dealing the securities of a company which undertakes to amend its articles of association at its next general meeting so as to fulfill the foregoing requirements and agrees to act in the meantime strictly in accordance with the provisions of this clause. At least 25% of each class of securities issued by the company was offered to the public for subscription through advertisement in newspapers for a period not less than 2 days, and the applications received in pursuance of such offer were allotted fairly and unconditionally. The copies of offers for sale and circulars or advertisements offering any securities. A company applying for the listing shall, as the condition precedent, undertake inter alia. The letter of allotment will be issued simultaneously, and that in the event of its improbable to issue the letters of regret at the same time, a notice to that effect will be inserted in the press so that it will appear on the morning after the letters of allotment have been posted. The letters of right will be issued simultaneously. The letters of allotment, acceptance or rights will be serially numbered, printed on good quality paper and examined and signed by a responsible officer of the company, and that whenever possible they will continue the distinctive number of the securities to which they relate. The letter of allotment and renouncement letters of right will contain a provision for splitting, and then, when so required by the exchange, the form of renunciation will be printed on the back of or attached to the letters of allotment and the letters of right. The letters of allotment and letters of right will state how the next payment of the interest or dividend on securities will be calculated. To issue, when so required, receipts for all securities deposited with it, whether or registration, subdivision, exchange or other purposes, are not to charge any fees for registration of transfer, for subdivision and consolidation of certificates, and for subdivision recommended or declared immediately after the meeting of the board of the company has been held to finalize the same. When the documents are lodged for subdivision or consolidation through the clearing house of exchange, to accept the discharge of an official of the stock exchange clearing the house of the company, split receipts and consolidate the receipts and the renewal receipts as good and sufficient discharge without insisting on the discharge of the registered holders, and to verify when the company is unable to issue the certificates or split receipt or the consolidation receipts or renewal receipts immediately on the lodgement, whether the discharge of the registered holders on the documents lodged for subdivision or consolidation or and their signatures on the relative transfers are in order. On the production of the necessary documents by the shareholders or the members of the exchange to make on the transfers and endorsement to the effect that the power of attorney or probable or probate or letters of administration or death certificates or certificate of the controller of estate duty or similar other documents have been duly exhibited to and registered by the company. To issue the certificates in respect of shares or debentures lodged by the transfer within the period of 1 month of the date of lodgement of transfer, and to issue balance certificates within the same period, whether the transfer is accompanied by a larger certificate. To advise the stock exchange of the date of the board meeting at which the declaration or recommendation of a dividend for the issue of right or bonus shares will be considered. To notify the stock exchange of any material change in the general character or nature of the company's business. To notify the stock exchange of any change in the company's directorate by death, resignation, removal or otherwise of the managing director, managing agent or secretaries and treasurers, of auditors appointed to audit the books and accounts of the company, to forward to the stock exchange companies of statutory and annual reports and audited accounts as soon as issued, including the director's report. To forward to the stock exchange as soon as they are issued, copies of all other notices and circulars sent to the shareholders, including the proceedings of ordinary and extraordinary proceedings of ordinary and general meetings of the company, and to file with the stock exchange the certified copies of resolutions of the company as soon as such resolution becomes effective. To notify the stock exchange prior to intimating the shareholders of any new issue of securities, whether by way of right, privilege, bonus or otherwise, and the manner in which it is proposed to offer or allot the same. To notify the stock exchange in the event of reissue of any forfeited securities or the issue of securities held in reserve for the further issue. To notify the stock exchange of any alteration of capital including calls, and to close the transfer books only for the purpose of declaration of dividend or issue of rights or bonus shares or such other purposes as the stock exchange may agree, and to give notice to the stock exchanges as many days in advance as the exchange may from time to time reasonably prescribe, stating the dates of closure of its transfer books, or when the transfer books are not to be closed, the date fixed for taking a record of its shareholders or debenture holders, and specifying the purpose or purposes for which the transfer books are to be closed or the record is to be kept, and in the case of right or bonus issues, to so close the transfer books or fix a record date only after the sanctions of the competent authority subject to which the issue is proposed to be made and having been duly obtained.
Few other requirements include company to notify that stock exchange the date of the board meeting at which the declaration of dividend will be considered, of any material change in the general character or nature of the company's business, or any change in company's directors, managing directors, and auditors, to forward to the stock exchange copies of directors' report and all other notices and circulars sent to the shareholders, and to file with the stock exchange certified copies of resolutions as soon as they become effective.
Let us now recapitulate what we have learnt in this module. Security Contract Regulation Act 1956 was passed by a resolution by Parliament to make the laws relating to the functioning of stock exchange in India. In order to ensure the smooth and the fair functioning of the stock exchanges, the Act provides for their recognition and has made rules regarding the grant and withdrawal of recognition of stock exchanges. The Act has provided for corporatization and demutualization of stock exchanges so as to provide them the statutes of corporate business entities. The central government exercises complete power over recognized stock exchanges and ensures the fair practices by them by calling for periodical inspections, making rules to be followed by them, issuing directions to them, etc. The Act provides for the procedures of listing of companies on a stock exchange, documents.
Let us now summarize what we have learnt in this module. Securities Contract Regulation Act 1956 was passed by a resolution of the Parliament to make laws relating to functioning of stock exchange in India. In order to ensure smooth and fair functioning of the stock exchanges, the Act provides various rules regarding grant and withdrawal of recognition of stock exchanges. The Act has provided for corporatization and demutualization of stock exchanges. The central government exercises complete powers over the recognized stock exchanges. The Act provides for a procedure of listing of companies on a recognized stock exchange, documents to be submitted, etc.